Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable: protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Number 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. There's tons going on. Happy Monday to you, so I got to get to all of it. Let's start with the Supreme Court, immunity, and Joe Biden. The 1964 Civil Rights Act, there he goes to the Lyndon Johnson Library. I'm telling you, there's a ton to cover. Ladies and gentlemen, what Biden and Harris are doing in support is exhibit number 1 through 1,000 in their authoritarian, autocratic mentality. They try and camouflage their fascistic Marxism with words like democracy. But it is what it is. Their war on the Supreme Court, the independence of the court, is like nothing we've ever seen, not even from Franklin Roosevelt, who tried to pack the court. Their war on the states, when it comes to the Dobbs decision, they don't believe in federalism, that the state should have a say in what goes on with the citizens in their state, health care in their state, and moral decisions in their state. They want a centralized, all-powerful police state imposing their will only if that will is in line with their ideological agenda. They want to eliminate the filibuster in the Senate. So with a mere majority of 1, they can push through the most radicalized agenda in American history, install it in law, install it in their massive bureaucracy, which makes it virtually impossible to unravel. So there are 3 instances, and just 3, there's many more. The war on the Supreme Court, the war on federalism in the states, and the war on the filibuster, all are there to protect you and me, to prevent authoritarianism. Well, they go around and talk about civil rights. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris oppose civil rights. How? They oppose civil rights because when the Supreme Court ruled that Harvard and a North Carolina university did not have the constitutional right to discriminate in a racist, bigoted way against Asian students during admissions, the court said, you're not free to do that under the Civil Rights Act. Biden condemned the court and Harris condemned the court. Remember that? And so they demand that the court bend to their will. They demand that the states not have a say. They demand that the filibuster rule, that's as old as the United States Senate, be eliminated, so by 1 vote they can impose their will. This is the most dangerous, Maduro-like, Castro-like, Mao-like, Putin-like totalitarian mindset that we've ever seen. And it all exists within the Democrat Party and their media. Their Pravda, Al Jazeera media. And I will remind you, America, that it's pretty sickening watching Joe Biden down there at the LBJ Library lecturing us about civil rights and the 1964 Civil Rights Act, when it was his party that filibustered that act, and multiple Southern racist segregationist senators who led the filibuster. The last one to filibuster for 14 hours was Robert Byrd, who would soon become the majority leader of the Senate with a vote of the likes of Joe Biden. And I will remind you that many of those senators who tried to prevent that law, who filibustered it, and not only that, the 1965 Civil Rights Act, which has come to be known as the Voting Rights Act, were close friends of Joe Biden, as he worked with them closely. Stennis, Talmadge, Eastland, Byrd, and others, to prevent little black kids from going to school with little white kids through integration via busing. Kamala Harris should be familiar with this. She claimed that she was one of them and made that point during the debate. But nowhere in the media is this mentioned. Nowhere. And by the way, Lyndon Johnson was one of the biggest racists to ever stand in the United States Senate. I've written about this. And the Democrat Party hates America. He opposed the 1957 Civil Rights Act. He opposed the 1960 Civil Rights Act Eisenhower was pushing. He insisted that Eisenhower take the teeth out of it, or he would filibuster it. Eisenhower was forced to take the teeth out of it. And so Johnson voted for it because he was positioning himself to run for president of the United States. That is the truth. That is what his biographers have said. And when it came to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the overwhelming vast majority of Republicans in the Senate and the House voted for it. The Democrats barely. And Biden was involved in all of it. Now they want to destroy the court's independence. They talk about Clarence Thomas is unethical. No, he's not. He's not unethical at all. Unethical is somebody who has a conflict of interest, takes money, and basically throws a case. The most unethical member of the Supreme Court is not Clarence Thomas. It's not Sam Alito. It's not even close. It's Sotomayor. And I encourage you to go on the internet and read about her. Read about her book deals. Read about how taxpayer-supported staff were demanding that if she spoke, they had to buy a certain number of her books. She became a multimillionaire through her books, and she heard at least one major case involving her publisher where she should have recused herself, but she did not. She voted to hear the case, even though the case didn't have enough votes to be heard. She voted for the case. Other justices who had the same publisher recused themselves. She did not. And then Biden has the gall to quote Sotomayor in one of the most mindless, hysterical, stupid dissents in Supreme Court history involving immunity. Joe Biden believes that prosecutors should be able to prosecute a president if they believe that the prosecutor has committed a crime. If the president has committed a crime during the course of his presidency. Where they could have grand juries impaneled. Where they can force the president into grand juries because they believe that he may have committed an offense. They can have his vice president, they can have his chief of staff, all of his staffers, even his White House counsel, even his attorney general testify. Obviously, that would cripple the presidency. Cripple it. Which is why nobody's ever tried to do that except Biden, Garland, and their unconstitutional prosecutor Smith. The Supreme Court didn't say that a president has immunity for all purposes. The Supreme Court said the president has immunity for his official acts. It said further that a president is not free to commit criminal acts. That is, if a president commits criminal acts and that's believed to be the case, then the judiciary, through judicial review, the district courts are free to take a look at it. But they can't conduct these massive investigations with all these witnesses and so forth to make a determination. It is presumed that it's legal unless it's obvious that it's not. Wow. So now we need to amend the Constitution to accommodate what exactly? And then they believe by statute you can limit the terms of a Supreme Court justice, even though the Constitution itself talks about good behavior. You can serve as a federal judge, a justice that is, for as long as you're on the court doing good behavior. Now, this has been the case since we've had a Supreme Court and a Constitution. But now, all of a sudden, Biden and Harris, no, we don't have to do that. We can change that by statute. These are the people who are going to defend democracy, attacking it at every turn, attacking the Electoral College. Separation of powers, due process, equal protection, free speech, the Bill of Rights. That's what that is. And for Harris to go on and on about equity. Equity is a complete shredding of the Declaration of Independence and the American experiment. Everybody's to end up in the same place? What the hell is this? I thought the Khmer Rouge were thrown out of power in Cambodia. Talk about weird. Oh, yes, you see Trump and J.D. Vance are weird. Why? Because Kamala Harris says so, so it's got to be repeated. Have you ever seen something so sick? How the media repeat what the Democrat Party tells them to repeat and vice versa? Have you ever seen anything so pathetic? You want to say weird? Mr. Producer, is there anything weirder than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Together they have an IQ of 5. They are weird people. Weird. They laugh weird. They act weird. They say stupid and weird things. Their spouses are weird. That's right, I said it. Weird. Bizarre. Kooks. Now, when we come back, Israel is at war now on multiple fronts. The position of the Biden administration is to continue to withhold weapons from them. The Biden administration is now leaning on Israel not to respond to the massacre that took place 72 hours ago. And by the way, the people who were slaughtered are Israelis, but they're Druze, which is a minority of a minority. They are Israeli citizens. Israel is a very diverse country, far more diverse than people realize. They targeted and they hit a soccer field, and they butchered those 12 little kids. They're all under 17. Some of them are quite young. I posted a photograph so you couldn't miss it, with these poor kids, with their faces missing, with their limbs missing, with half a body. This is a town of 11,000 people near the Golan Heights. And these missiles that are being used are provided to Hezbollah by Iran. And some of these missiles have United States parts. Did you read that, Mr. Producer? United States parts, right here from America. How did they get them? Biden, Blinken, Austin, how did they get them? Because they turned the funnel on, the oil funnel. Iran is loaded with cash. It buys whatever it wants. And tonight, Israel is pushing, the United States is pushing Israel hard not to respond, not to broaden the war. They keep giving Israel's enemies, who are our enemies, a reason to keep attacking, torturing, and slaughtering hostages because they see what's going on. And then before I get into this a little bit more, let me just see right here. I was sent something from, where is this here? Morgan Ortagus. It is very, very important, as a matter of fact. Let me just see here. Give me 1 second, Mr. Producer. I just posted it. Do you have that there? I just sent it to you. Here, I think I sent. Stay with me, America. These are moving events. Which is as follows. The Iranian regime is interfering in our election. Can you correct the spelling on that, please? To help Harris. And Morgan writes, this is deeply disturbing. The world's leading state sponsored terrorism, Iran, while trying to actively murder former U.S. officials on American soil, including the former president. It's also trying to influence the outcome of our November election. Now, what is she talking about? Any American who truly cares about democracy should decry this immediately. What is the Biden-Harris administration doing to stop this? Reminder, Iran's proxies are using their weapons to kill and go after American service members and diplomats in the Middle East. Now they're trying to throw the election. Here's what she's talking about. Intel officials disclosed that the Iranian regime is seeking to undermine Trump's presidential campaign through covert online influence operations. Tehran is using, quote, vast webs of online personas and propaganda mills to spread disinformation. This is on top of prior disclosures that Iranian regime is funding anti-Israel protests in America. The intelligence community needs to reveal which social media accounts are being run by the Islamic Republic of Iran, and quickly. National Intel Avril Haines, the U.S. Director of National Intel, released a statement that the Iranian government and their influencers are posing as activists supporting anti-Israel protests in the United States. And it goes on. Much more. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, folks, we're living in unprecedented times. And September 18th could be a watershed moment. With President Trump's sentencing approaching, we're facing potential political upheaval, which could create some dangerous market and economic chaos. That's where gold and diversification come in. Gold has always been one of the ultimate safe havens in times of turmoil. And when it comes to gold, I only trust one company. I've dealt with many. That's Advantage Gold. They're a 5-star American company that I recommend to everyone. They're the experts in helping Americans protect their money with gold and silver using existing retirement savings with zero fees. So call Advantage Gold today at 800-900-8000 and they'll send you a free gold investment kit to help you get started. Tell them Mark Levin sent you to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait until September 18th. It's already here, folks. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit from Advantage Gold. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. Always consult your financial tax professional. Let me be clear, since the sycophants in the Al Jazeera Pravda media are not interested in the facts. The fact that Kamala Harris did not attend that joint session of Congress as the president of the Senate to at least listen to the Prime Minister of Israel. The fact that after she met the Prime Minister of Israel, she stabbed him in the back 1,000 times with her outrageous comments. The fact that she's always coming to the defense of Hamas, whether she calls them Hamas or not, spewing her horrendous blood libels against the Jews in Israel. The fact that her daughter is a Hamasian. The fact that her husband is a pathetic nebbish. The fact that she hangs out with CARE and CARE supports her. The fact that she's talking to radical Islamic groups. The fact that she's threatening cutting all arms off from Israel. Don't tell me that had nothing to do with Hezbollah's attack on those Druze children. Don't tell me it has nothing to do with the increased mistreatment, if not killing, of the hostages. Our enemy, these terrorists, Iran, figure they can get away with anything they want. And the Democrat Party, the American media, and Harris and Biden will come to their defense in fact, if not in word. I'll be back. Hi, this is Mark Levin, and I've got an urgent message that can't wait. September 18th is coming, and with it, President Trump's sentencing. We're staring down this barrel again of potential market chaos. The question isn't if there's going to be a fallout, but how much. In times of instability, many smart investors turn to gold as part of diversification. And when I think of gold, I think of Advantage Gold. These folks are true partners in helping Americans find financial stability. Advantage Gold's experts understand the connection between politics and economics, and they can navigate you through these crazy times using gold to help shield your hard-earned wealth.
So call my trusted friends at Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit. If you wait until September 18th, it might be too late. 800-900-8000 for your free investment kit. Tell them Mark Levin sent you to see if you qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. Always consult your financial and tax professional.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
Now, I want to go over with you, because it wasn't done until my show last night on Life, Liberty, and Levin, the specific list of weapons that Harris and Biden are either withholding or slow walking to the Israelis. And they need them now, particularly because there's going to be an all-out war with Hezbollah, and they will not have the full backing of the United States. Words mean nothing. 120-millimeter tank ammo. Anticipated delivery now? 2027, Mr. Berdizzi. You believe that? 3 years. 120-millimeter mortar ammo. They may get it in 2026 now. They need it now. FMTV vehicles, those are medium tactical vehicles. They may get them in 2026. AMRAAM. AMRAAM are medium air-to-air missiles. They may get them in 2027 or 2028. F-15s. Now, these are things that have already been supported by Congress, but they're being slow-walked. 2029. F-135 engines for Israel's F-35s. 2030 to 2034. JDAMs. Those are technologies that convert unguided bombs to precision-guided munitions. 2026. So nothing this year and nothing next year of these systems that are all being withheld, as well as the tank ammo and the mortars. But I'm not done. Here are items that are ready for shipment right now, but are on hold, on formal hold by the Harris-Biden administration. MK-84s, these are the 2,000-pound bombs. They're ready for immediate delivery, but they're being withheld. And obviously, they're going to need them if they're going to take out Iran's nuclear program. What else? Rifles. The Biden administration has prevented the sale, even from commercial sales companies, of rifles to Israeli National Police. Anticipated delivery maybe in a year. They have withheld rifles, again, from Israeli National Police. The first were the Colts, the second are the Daniel Group, maybe in a year. They are withholding .338 medium machine guns, most of us know that as Sig Sauer machine guns, for the Israeli Defense Forces, to be determined. And the withholding from the Israelis, from the IDF, JDAM Boeing guided missile systems, for at least 6 months. So they're slow walking 7 types of equipment and systems and are literally blocking the delivery, again, already approved, of bombs, rifles, and guided missile systems from the Israelis. We've never seen anything like this by any administration, including Obama's. We have never, ever seen anything like this being done to our ally Israel. And tonight, as they are having to prepare for war, keep in mind, it's a tiny country with a small population. The vast majority of the IDF are made up of reservists. These are just common citizens. They are exhausted. Many of them haven't seen their families for the longest time. They need the tank munitions. They need the medium-range missiles. They need the guidance systems. They need these things that Congress passed and provided to them, which are either being slow-walked or blocked by the Biden administration. And they're doing nothing about it tonight. And in fact, there are reports of massive diplomatic efforts by the Biden administration to put enormous pressure on Netanyahu and his government not to respond to what Hezbollah did. The greatest attack against the Israelis since the prior greatest attack on October 7th. Now, while they're doing this to the Israelis, they have put no new sanctions on Iran. The oil keeps flowing. They keep selling their oil to China and others. They're buying weapons and arms from other countries. Apparently, they're getting some of our own weapons and technologies as well and putting it in their munitions. They are muscled up the Iranians like never before. They're providing sophisticated weapons to Hezbollah. Hezbollah is their true army. I mean, they have their own army, but true foreign army. They even have technologies now that are going to allow them to electrically interfere with Israeli radar systems or the equivalent thereof that the Iranians have just sent them, while we're holding back on basic mortars and rifles. It's a horrendous thing. There's one candidate for president who supports Israel, and there's one who does not. Trump supports Israel. Kamala Harris hates Israel. Hates Israel. And if you're a Marxist and you're a radical, you hate Israel the way you hate your own country. And if we had a real media in America, she would be exposed for exactly who she is and what she is, and she'd be creamed in the next election. But they're doing everything humanly possible to create a caricature, a fiction, the way they did with Biden for the longest time. Here's President Trump at a... And by the way, that slaughter that occurred in Israel, slaughtering the Druze children, Kamala Harris still has not said anything. Oh, they put out a statement 24 hours later, but she still has not personally come out, condemned it, and spoken out about it. And I would say this to the governor of Pennsylvania, Democrat, Jewish, we were told over and over again, you are disgusting. You are pathetic. The idea, as Joe Biden would say, the idea that Kamala Harris, who's part of the Tlaib, AOC, Omar, Bernie Sanders wing of the Democrat Party, an outspoken hater of the state of Israel, despite all the insinuations that she supports Israel, that's all crap. She's made it abundantly clear. You can't support CARE. You can't speak to these Islamic groups. You can't say, do not use the phrase radical Islamic terrorism. You cannot say the things that she said after she met with Netanyahu or refused to show up in a joint hearing, a joint Congress, and then tell us that you support Israel. I know. The idea that the governor of Pennsylvania, Democrat and Jewish, would even allow himself to be considered as a running mate for the most pro-Hamas, pro-Iran, pro-Houthis, pro-Hezbollah candidate in American history, the most anti-Israel candidate in American history, that you would even allow your name to be considered because you're such a power-hungry little weasel. Oh, he's got 61% approval in Pennsylvania. You know how you get 61% approval in Pennsylvania? I'm telling you, as a Pennsylvanian. That's where I was born and raised. To act like you're a moderate Democrat. Then you get moderate Democrats, you get the wild-eyed freaks in and around Philadelphia, I know, Montgomery County, that's where I was raised, that's where they are, all the liberal kooks. You create perceptions, pseudo-events. Oh, he's a moderate. Oh, we love the guy. 61 votes. Fantastic. And he's either going to be selected with a bald guy from Arizona. All of a sudden, he's changed his views too. Bald guy from Arizona, former astronaut, who should be saying, I don't want to be considered. Look what you've done to my state with the open border. But these guys have no principles, all power hungry. But here's Trump. Here's Trump in his rally in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Saturday. Here he is, outspoken, unequivocal, defender of Israel, defender of the government of Israel, defender of Netanyahu, under whose tutelage, that is, Trump, under whose foreign policy, peace was breaking out everywhere, including in the Middle East. People couldn't believe it. Now look at it. Now look at the Harris-Biden foreign policy. Here's Trump. Cut one, go.
Before we begin, I want to condemn the evil attack on Israel that took place earlier today. A missile launched by Hezbollah killed at least a dozen children, young children. And they were playing, as you heard, on a soccer field in Israeli territory on the Golan Heights, a place that I recognized during my administration as under Israel's sovereignty. It was a big thing. I've been trying to get it done for 72 years. I got it done in about 1 hour.
So true. So true.
The savage Hezbollah terrorists struck these children with an Iranian precision missile. Dozens more were wounded in the attack, and sadly, the death toll is probably going to go very substantially higher. Our hearts go out to the families of these innocent children. No parent should have to suffer the terrible loss of a child at the hands of terrorists or anybody else. Today's attack on Israel cannot be forgotten, and it will go down as another moment in history created by a weak and ineffective United States president and vice president. They wouldn't have done this if I were the president. They wouldn't have done it.
And they didn't do it. Exactly.
With time, the situation will only get worse for our country with the kind of leadership that we have right now, which is no leadership. It's probably worse than no leadership. It's negative. It's negative leadership. It must galvanize Republicans, Democrats, independents, conservatives, progressives, libertarians, and everybody else to put strength, respect, and power back into the USA where it belongs. This attack, just like the attack on October 7th or the Ukraine-Russia war, think of it, nor would country-busting inflation. You know, inflation is destroying our country. None of it would have happened. It would have never happened if we were president. It wouldn't have happened. It's a dangerous and terrible time for the world. And it's almost the entire fault of incompetent Biden-Harris administration.
It's true. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there are efforts underway to remove this program. There are efforts underway to remove this program for some of you, so that when you turn on the dial, I won't be there. There are efforts underway because I speak my mind, I speak the truth, and it doesn't matter who's offended or who's in the way. Yes, there are active efforts to do that right now as I speak. I want you to go to marklevinshow.com, click on Audio Rewind, and select your favorite platform so you can always listen to this program no matter what. Oh, I'll call them out. Just give me a month or so. I'll call them out. Or you can search Mark Levin Show on your favorite podcast platform. So go ahead and download Mark Levin Show so you always have us available to you. You can also now find all my full podcasts, interviews, and specials on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel, youtube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. Westwood One has extended my contract for another 5.5 years. I don't know what I'm going to do after that. That's why we did it 5.5 years. It's a very patriotic president at Westwood, Juan. I don't want to get him in trouble. And other people, they understand the situation we're in this country. But there is a movement afoot here and there to move this show in one market or another from radio. People in radio ought to look at this show as saving AM radio, as helping to save AM radio. Everybody knows AM radio is in trouble. There's no secret. It's published everywhere. So when you have a host who's on every platform, satellite, the internet, various apps, podcasting, and terrestrial radio, you should embrace that host as you embraced yourselves in this business. Or you're not going to last. You're just not. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, folks, we're living in unprecedented times. And September 18th could be a watershed moment. With President Trump's sentencing approaching, we're facing potential political upheaval, which could create some dangerous market and economic chaos. That's where gold and diversification come in. Gold has always been one of the ultimate safe havens in times of turmoil. And when it comes to gold, I only trust one company. I've dealt with many. That's Advantage Gold. They're a 5-star American company that I recommend to everyone. They're the experts in helping Americans protect their money with gold and silver using existing retirement savings with zero fees. So call Advantage Gold today at 800-900-8000 and they'll send you a free gold investment kit to help you get started. Tell them Mark Levin sent you to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait until September 18th. It's already here, folks. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit from Advantage Gold. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. Always consult your financial tax professional. You
heard the statement Trump gave? Did you hear a statement like that from Harris? You heard nothing. Did you hear a statement like that from Biden? Nothing. Tell me, have you heard a statement like that from any Democrat? Nothing. Instead, you hear this from Chris Van Hollen. He's the junior senator, soon to be the senior senator from Maryland. His wife is a radical Israel hater. And so her husband is a lowlife. Absolute lowlife. Here he is on Deface the Nation. Cut 2, go.
Do you believe Congress was used as a prop by Netanyahu?
I do think. I think Prime Minister Netanyahu accomplished his goal of using Congress as a prop to boost his support in Israel, especially among his right-wing extremists.
Look how sick this is. So now if you speak to Congress, you're asking Congress to follow up with the weapons. You're explaining what's going on in your country. You're helping right-wing extremists in your government. There are no right-wing extremists in the Israeli government. The right-wing extremists are the Islamo-Nazis that surrounds that country and is killing Israelis, and Israel's trying to fight back. You dumb bastard, Van Hollen. See if this jerk will come on the show, will you? Another loser. Another freak, fraud, phony. Unbelievable. Israel's going to have another war, and this is even going to be worse. And Iran sits back collecting money because Harris and Biden, with the help of freaks, fools, and phonies like Van Hollen, they view Israel as the enemy, not Iran. Do they ever talk about Iran as the enemy? When have they done that? When's the last time? While they're boycotting the Prime Minister of Israel, are they boycotting the Iranians when they come to the UN? No, they're handing them out visas like lollipops. Are they boycotting
Economically, Iran? No. When it comes to the major sanctions, they're not even enforcing them. Van Hollen, you puke. You jerk. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I want to remind you that when the Israeli elected government and the Likud party, the majority party, was trying to reform its judiciary, Joe Biden felt it was his place, in fact, his obligation, to denounce it. To denounce it. Now he wants to destroy the independence of our Supreme Court. I wonder if Benjamin Netanyahu were to denounce Biden and what he was doing to our Supreme Court, Mr. Producer, what the reaction might be. What do you think, America? Now, the first place I saw that comment was actually with Richard Goldberg, who posted it 7:51 a.m. this morning. Others have since plagiarized it. But he has a headline there. Biden expresses concern for Israel judicial overhaul plan, April 2, 2023. And then a headline about New York Post, Biden formally unveils plan to overhaul SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States. Why? Because Biden is a sick, pathetic demagogue. I listened to what he had to say this evening. It was disgusting. The only man, President of the United States, who was in fact a racist segregationist. But I wanted to point that out to you. We'll be probably the only ones in mass communication that even mention that, but it's really amazing how he condemns Israel for trying to get its really out of control Supreme Court under control. And here we have a Supreme Court that Biden's at war with because it doesn't rubber stamp what he demands. The Democrat Party is a autocratic, Marxist operation with fascistic goals to eliminate all barriers to its power. It's that simple. If you understand that, you understand what the Democrat Party is. These are unprecedented times. We've never seen tyranny swirling around us like this. We've never had a press like this. That's a mouthpiece for tyranny. And the propaganda, the talking points, handed to it by a Democrat administration. But it's even worse than that. On their own. They lie about Kamala Harris. They do not want you to know about her record, which is why I spent 20 minutes in my opening statement on Fox last night, Life, Liberty, and Levin, laying it out. It's now all over the internet. Have you noticed that, Mr. Producer? Very, very important that people understand what an absolute Marxist, radical, dangerous kook Kamala Harris is. Is that clear enough for the media and the media surrogates out there? She's worse than a weirdo. 1,000 times worse. That's the new word they came up with. Very sophisticated. You know, there was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, when the media understood that Kamala Harris is a radical, dangerous, that's right, revolutionary idiot. Was a drag on the ticket. It was only 3 months ago, Mr. Producer. At the CNN roundtable, they had a panel.
April 26, 2024. She's a drag on the ticket. Hat tip X. Cut 5, go.
Interesting news. Recent focus groups conducted by the super PAC Republican voters against Trump found that swing voters don't like Harris. And focus groups conducted by the Democratic National Committee also found Harris rubs some people the wrong way. So, Jonah, how big a drag is Kamala Harris on the ticket?
I think she's a pretty big drag. I think she was arguably Biden's worst political decision of his presidency to pick her in the first place.
As you listen to this, I want you to contrast with what you're hearing today. The full court press by the Pravda, Al Jazeera media. The full court press. These so-called media outlets are not talking negatively about her in the least. They're trashing the hell out of J.D. Vance. They don't go back and look at the videos, the audios, her comments in the papers, at different meetings. They're protecting her the way they protected Biden for 4 years. The Praetorian Guard is protecting Kamala Harris because she's an idiot without dementia. Joe Biden's an idiot with dementia. But she's an idiot nonetheless. And the things that she has said are horrid. Horrid. Mr. Producer, let us also key up that 3.5 minute period where I went through this on Sunday. Can you grab that for maybe after the bottom of the hour? Anyway, let's go ahead. Go.
A drag is Biden's age concerns people. They worry that he can't fill a term. They worry that he's not up to the job. And so the vice president matters more than they normally do. I generally think going into the future that Democrats really should not nominate or front people who come from decidedly all blue states unless they're like once in a generation talents like Barack Obama. Because Kamala Harris does not know how to talk to the center or to the right. She only really knows how to sort of speak the language of the base of the party, and that's 34% of the electorate.
Let me pick up on that, because it's not just focus groups that are down on Harris right now. In a recent poll, national poll, 40% approved of the vice president's job performance, while 55% disapproved. And Kara, to Jonah's point, given the fact that people are so worried, voters on all political stripes are so worried about Biden's age and whether he's going to last for 4 more years, is it a problem when they're not very satisfied or reassured by the person who would succeed him?
Doesn't really matter. She's not going to be replaced, and they don't like her. There's lots of reasons they don't like her, and I don't think the vice president matters as much as people think. I don't think they think about her unless...
With an 82-year-old president, it might
I get that,
more.
But right now, I don't think that's the first thing they think about is her necessarily. I just don't. I think they've not liked her. She's had not a successful vice presidency, although I don't know what that means at all, because I don't think people thought of Mike Pence very much or Dan Quayle or anybody else. And so it doesn't matter because she's not going anywhere. He's not going to replace her. Think about that. Think about the earthquake that would cause. And so
I think Jonah's right, though, in the sense that she really does struggle with her communication skills. She really.
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because the vice president's staff, Lulu, is saying, well, you know, she got off to a rough start, whether it was just 1 year or 2 years or whatever, but she has finally found her voice. One of the things that people objected to was her voice. They said they found her voice, especially her laugh, annoying.
Oh, dear.
You know, it is amusing, and I put in Google, Kamala Harris finds her voice. It's not just it's not just the Harris team that's saying this. When you Google that, you get several articles by reporters. It is the media that's saying this, and about once every 6 months, the media writes a story, Kamala Harris finds her voice, and usually it's on the abortion message. If she had a strong, consistent voice and was really finding a lot of success as vice president, we wouldn't read an article every 6 months.
Yes, because no one ever writes about women and their voices. No one ever writes about women smiling or being appealing.
Well, you know, I kind of anticipated this.
I'm sorry.
People write about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his voice.
Not that much. Come on. And it's a particularly annoying voice, by the way. But that's besides the point. It's
precisely the point. Her voice is an issue.
She's got a problem with communicating. She sounds like a prosecutor. I would say that's probably she sounds like what she was.
So this woman, whoever she is just what we call a flunky. But you get the point. The point is that they were all down on her just 3 months ago. What changed? Did Kamala change? No. Full Soviet-style media propaganda on behalf of the Democrat Party and an anointed, not an elected, an anointed putative nominee. Think about this. But it's more than just CNN. The entire media was saying this. Cut 4, hat tip X, go.
There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings.
Swing voters don't like Harris. How big a drag is Kamala Harris on the ticket?
She's a pretty big drag. I think she was arguably Biden's worst political decision.
They don't like her. There's lots of reasons they don't like her.
Kamala Harris's approval rating is now at 28%, which is an historic low for any modern vice president.
We're hearing it from mainstream media, one outlet after another, one leak after another. That Kamala Harris is the worst vice president ever, the worst politician ever.
We don't see the vice president. What people are saying to me, and I'm sure they're saying it to you, where's the vice president? Some White House officials are feeling that she came off looking unprepared for inevitable questions about when she might visit the southern border.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
The point that Lester Holt was making was obvious to anyone else who was watching this interview, which is that the issues at the border are inextricably linked with the portfolio that she's been given.
No. She's not the border czar. Come on now. Get with the new propaganda. Go ahead.
A secure border.
Bidenomics is working. Prices have gone up, and families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more, and we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up.
He picked Kamala Harris to be his running mate. She was ranked and is ranked as the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. So he could have gone the other way, but he went to the left.
Joe Biden is running for re-election, and I will be his ticket mate. Full stop. Full stop. Sit.
Oh, there's so much. But you don't hear it on CNN and MSNBC. You don't hear it on NBC, ABC, and CBS. You have people defending her now who before did not. You have people defending her now who were silent before. Now she's unbelievable. She's unbeatable. She's 10 feet tall. The numbers are closing in. You have 100% media support for this woman outside of a few outlets. Day in and day out, from the time you listen to the news, first thing in the morning, till you go to bed late at night. It is constant. It is the big lie. It's repetition. That's what totalitarian media do. Repetition. They're hiding her background. They are hiding her record. Worse, they're lying about her background. They're lying about her record. They're calling people the worst kinds of names who dare to challenge her and dare to challenge her record. They're telling you that you're a liar, like they did with Biden. They're telling you to ignore what you see in those videos, like they did with Biden. They're telling you to close your ears to what she said, like they did with Biden. And they are going to deliver her the nomination without a single vote for president ever as a nominee. Then they're telling you that J.D. Vance, there's something wrong with him. Now he's weird. Now, don't call people catwomen. I don't even know what that means. Fine. But how about you lay off calling Trump Hitler? Is that okay too? You get my point, America? Lots more when I return. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data?
You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. Yeah, it's funny the Democrats use the word weirdo. Have they ever looked at Schumer? Now that guy's a weirdo. Bernie Sanders, a freak. Biden, always a weirdo. Harris, weirdo extraordinaire. What's female for weirdo? I don't even know. Weirdess? Whatever. What's a pronoun for anyway, so they're all freaks, frauds, and phonies. And they look the part. But now J.D. Vance, who served in the United States Marine Corps defending our country, J.D. Vance, who grew up dirt poor, grandmother raises him, his mother is an addicted drug user, obviously, and then he's a self-made millionaire. He's a weirdo, according to the Democrats. So if you serve your country, you fought your way out of poverty, you contribute to society, you run for office, you're a weirdo. Now, has Kamala Harris ever called anybody who's an illegal alien coming across the border and assaulting anybody a weirdo? No. Has she ever called the Islamo-Nazi who runs Iran a weirdo? No, Mark. What must you be thinking? No, really? No. J.D. Vance is a weirdo. Why? Well, the things he has said. Look who's talking, Kamala, you buffoon. And Biden, buffoon. Look at the things they've said. So now here's a montage of the media and the politicians, guess who's who, calling J.D. Vance weird. Because this is what totalitarian parties and regimes do. Cut 8, go.
Comes out, Vance has done something more extreme, more weird, more erratic. Vance seems to be more erratic and more extreme than President Trump.
So I think we're being really kind and gracious by just calling you...
This woman's name is Ana Navarro, which I believe in Spanish means lowlife. No, Mr. Producer? Anyway, it does on this program. Ana Navarro, go.
And frankly, J.D. Vance, just dumb Vance, is pretty weird.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate and the Republican apparatus behind them will regroup.
That's Jen Psaki, who, believe it or not, is more transparent than Biden. And I don't mean intellectually. Go ahead.
I think Kamala Harris is going to pick anyone as weird and creepy as
this is Swalwell. Remind me, I bumped into him last week, Mr. Producer. I bumped into this. Oh, weird. This guy's the definition of weird. Then we have McCaskill and Gretchen and Pritzker. Did you see Pritzker? You see what that guy looks like? That guy's got a face like a pancake. He's a complete slob. More when I return. I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk.
This is the nation's town hall meeting, and you can join in at 877-381-3811.
Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps 3.5 minutes of the greatest cable opening statement in cable history. Wouldn't you say, Mr. Producer? I want you to listen to this. This was from Sunday's Life, Liberty, and Levin. I don't typically do this, but I have to say, what happens is I happened to tape that program earlier in the day, and I gave this opening statement, and we taped it at 9:20 in the morning, and I typically will get up at 6:30 in the morning to prepare my opening statement. Nobody does it. I do it. I don't have writers. Everybody has writers, like they have ghost writers for their books. I do it all. Not because I'm so great, because I just don't want to mislead you, and I need to know what I'm going to say from my research to my mouth to everybody's ears. And so this is just a part of it. I want you to listen to this very carefully, and we have already posted it. Cut 29, go.
Here's a short list I put together. Where does she stand? Eliminate fracking, so you can all freeze to death. Open border, decriminalize illegal immigration. That from the border czar. Oh, but she's not the border czar. No, she's not anything. Free health care for illegal immigrants. That'll destroy our health care system. Student loan cancellation, violation of the Constitution. So all you folks, 2/3 of the nation that never went to a 4-year college, never graduated, you get to subsidize all of those who did, even though it violates the Constitution. Eliminate private health care. Some of you have private health care and you like it. Even some unions have negotiated hard for private health care. She would abolish it. She would force you all into government-run socialist health care. And I'm sure they'll do a fantastic job like they do on the border, or maybe the $42.5 billion to hook up everyone to internet. She was in charge of that. Nobody's been hooked up who was supposed to be. Infanticide. She doesn't just support abortion or Roe v. Wade. She supported S-510, a Senate bill that, among other things, outlawed nationwide parental notification if a child's going to have an abortion, and required in every state abortion right up to birth, paid for by the taxpayers. That's her position on abortion. Why doesn't she show us what that looks like, since she's now the abortion candidate? If it's just a choice, if it's about reproductive rights, wow, that's a weird word, then show it to us. But they won't. What else? She opposes school choice except for her own stepdaughter, even for poor families, even for black kids going to lousy schools. She opposes Title IX. She would destroy women's equality in sports, a 52-year-old civil right, which also gives women equal access to scholarships and extracurricular activities. Why? Well, because of the trans agenda. We talked about defunding the police, dismantling ICE, supporting sanctuary cities and states to this day. She supports nationwide registration of guns. She thinks, oh, that's a good idea. Opposes parental rights. She supported Merrick Garland's memo attacking parents. So she believes the government and her favorite, the AFT, the radical left-wing teachers union, should raise your children. She supported discrimination against Asian students who were discriminated against by Harvard for admissions. She trashed that decision. Oh, well, what about Israel? She repeats the most anti-Semitic blood libel. She did it the other day against the Jewish people in Israel, against the elected Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and their citizen soldiers. She regurgitates Hamas's civilian casualty numbers without attacking Hamas for attacking their own people, killing them and beating them when they steal the food from them. That's a long way from President Harry Truman to Kamala Harris. Boycotts Israel's prime minister, historic speech in Congress. Sends the word to the Hamas hostage holders, we have your back. That's what she did. But she speaks to CARE. CARE is all supportive of Kamala Harris. CARE is a Hamas front group. It was founded in Philadelphia. The FBI wiretapped the meeting. There was big federal litigation. Everybody knows CARE. CARE is a Hamas front group, and she embraces them. They support her. That tells you where she is.
Now you know why there are elements within the radio industry that want to silence me. It'll never happen. You have access to this show by your own means. It doesn't matter. And I'm not done. The Washington Free Beacon by Chuck Ross. An inspiration to me always. Meet Kamala Harris's radical pastor. After President Joe Biden stepped aside and Harris became the presumptive Democrat nominee, one of the first people she called was her longtime pastor, Amos Brown. She said to me, "Pastor, I called because I want you to pray for me, this country, and the race I'm intending to run for president," Brown told the Christian publication Sojourners in an interview. Harris and Brown, the longtime pastor of San Francisco's Third Baptist Church, have known each other for nearly a quarter century. The two have remained close throughout her vice presidency. In July 2023, Harris posted a picture of the two to the vice president's Instagram account and described Brown as an inspiration to me always. Less well known, however, is Brown's history of radical anti-American remarks that have elicited blowback even from San Francisco Democrats, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. You see, here's the Free Beacon digging this up. Where's CNN and MSNBC and the major print media? They don't care. They're not digging the damn thing up. At a memorial service for victims of the 9/11 terror attacks held just 6 days after al-Qaeda murdered nearly 3,000 Americans, this Pastor Brown used the occasion to point the finger at the United States. In remarks, according to the San Francisco Chronicle, quote, set a lot of people's teeth on edge and left politicians stunned. Remember, this is Kamala Harris's quarter-century pastor to this minute. America, is there anything you did to set up this climate? Brown asked the audience. Oh, America, what did you do? America, what did you do 2 weeks ago when I stood at the World Conference on Racism? When you wouldn't show up, Brown continued, referring to his participation in the UN World Conference Against Racism, which the United States and Israel boycotted, citing concerns about anti-Semitism. Well, don't worry, Kamala's not worried about that. Oh, she's married to a Jewish man. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? Oh, yes, in the UK, the Prime Minister is married to a Jewish woman, and they all hate Israel. Go figure. Pastor Brown's diatribe jarred a mostly liberal audience, the Chronicle reported, noting that the late California Senator Dianne Feinstein and former California Governor Gray Davis left during his remarks. Pelosi used her time on the dais to push back against Brown. Quote, with all due respect to some of the sentiments that were earlier expressed, some of which I agree with, make no mistake, the act of terrorism on 9/11 put those people outside the order of civilized behavior. We will not take responsibility for that, she said at the time. Pelosi apologized to the partner of Mike Bingham, a 9/11 victim believed to have been part of the group of passengers who battled with the hijackers of Flight 93 and helped derail it in the Pennsylvania field. This was supposed to be a memorial service. Bingham's partner of 6 years, Paul Home, told former Senator Barbara Boxer during the service. Home confirmed Pelosi and her staff burst into tears after Pastor Brown's remarks, which he called one of the most shocking things from a very dark period. For Amos Brown and his allies to make it worse was un-American, Home told the Washington Free Beacon. It is unclear when Kamala Harris joined Brown's church or whether she was aware of his remarks. At the time she was working for San Francisco City Attorney Louise Rennie, ahead of her 2003 DA campaign. But his remark caused a stir in San Francisco, drawing newspaper headlines such as Pelosi lays in the minister for comments at service, Amos Brown's over-the-top rant at tribute. Brown's radical politics have also veered into anti-Semitism. Again, Pastor Brown, as he calls himself, is the pastor right now to Kamala Harris. Right now. And has been for a quarter of a century. He served as a delegate to the 2001 United Nations World Conference Against Racism, held in Durban, South Africa, and best known for equating Zionism with racism. The United States and Israel walked out of that conference over that resolution, expressing dismay that a conference ostensibly devoted to combating hatred had devoted into a hate fest against the Jews. Some scholars have traced the roots of the anti-Israel boycott, divestment, and sanctions, the BDS movement, to a meeting in Tehran with NGOs to prepare for the Durban conference, which eventually issued a declaration calling for, quote, a policy of complete and total isolation of Israel as an apartheid state. You want to see apartheid? You look in these Arab countries. There's apartheid. Brown's radicalism has also been on public display in the years since Harris joined his congregation. He serves in the California Reparations Task Force,
called for cash payments to descendants of slaves from billionaires in San Francisco. According to the New York Times, the pastor held a Solidarity for Reparations event at his church in 2022, told the San Francisco Chronicle in 2021 that America is a racist country. Look, folks, you choose who your pastor is, you choose who your priest is, you choose who your rabbi is, or not. She's chosen this pastor who's nuts, who is so far out that even the Pelosi types and people of her ilk keep an arm distance. Kamala Harris is tight. Kamala Harris called him. Immediately after Biden dropped out and backed her, she called him, one of the first people she called. The Harris-Brown relationship bears a resemblance, they write, to that of one between former President Obama, longtime pastor Jeremiah Wright. We all remember that. For 2 decades now, Lisa, I've turned to you, Harris said of Pastor Brown in her remarks to the National Baptist Convention in 2022. I've turned to him, and I will say that your wisdom has guided me and grounded me during some of the most difficult times. How much more evidence is needed? And the more that comes out, not through the media, the more the media try and kill it. Like a pillow. Smother it. Smother it. She is every bit the Marxist I've said. She's every bit the America hater that I've said. She's every bit the anti-Israel vice president I have said. She is the most radical person to ever seek the presidency of the United States. The most extremist. She is a hater. She is a race baiter. She does not believe in the Declaration and its emphasis on national rights and, natural rights and natural law and the individual with all her equity comments. Everybody has to end up in the same place. Really? Wow. There's a lot of gulags filled with people who are ending up in the same place. We will post this. An inspiration to me always. Meet Kamala Harris's radical pastor. Pastor Brown. Unbelievable. She's gotten away with this. The question is, will we let her get away with it again? Can you imagine a person like this, President of the United States? Seriously. Doesn't believe in illegal immigration. Don't call radical Islamic terrorism, radical Islamic terrorism. Don't use the phrase illegal aliens. We need to defund the cops. We need to defund ICE. I mean, think about this woman. We need to eliminate private health care so we're all forced into some government system. The government can't run crap. It's not going to run the most complex industry on the face of the earth. Oh, yeah, we'll all wind up in the same place. We'll all have equity, but we'll be dying from it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. Don't worry, folks, nobody is going to silence me. Not any station, not any network, nobody. Ever. Adam Credo, Free Beacon, just in. Iran raked in $16 billion from illicit oil sales in just 4 months, highlighting the Biden-Harris administration's lax sanctions enforcement. Tehran's profits are soaring as it pays for terror across the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to read about Kamala Harris's pastor. We're posting it. I want you to read. I just read it. You need to read it and pass it along. You need to understand where her head's at. Where her head is. What's between her ears? Forget about her race. Forget about her genitalia. I know they want to keep playing it up, and then when you notice it, call you a racist and a misogynist. Forget about all that. It's what's between her ears. And it's not pretty. You gotta read who she is. I am posting away, left and right, going over the head of the Al Jazeera Pravda media. So you have access to this information to pass around to your fellow citizens, so we, the people, from the bottom up and the middle out, can take our country back from these Marxist Islamist bastards. That's why. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin. We're going to go to 17, you know. Our number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. When Chuck Schumer's on Deface the Nation, this guy, talk about weird, he is a bizarro. Absolute bizarro. Do you know he has children, Mr. Producer? Oof. I mean, I'm not talking about the children, I'm talking about the process. Can you imagine with this guy? Oof. Anyway, he's on Deface the Nation. I want to remind you, I've talked for over 20 years on these airwaves about the effort by the Democrats to dehumanize their opponents. Now, they dehumanize Trump. They still dehumanize Trump. They're in the midst of dehumanizing J.D. Vance. And they dehumanize the constitutionalists. They're not conservatives. I hear people talk who cover the court. They're conservative. Conservative is a political philosophy and way of life. We're talking about constitutionalists here. Their job is to be a constitutionalist. And so you can just see the Democrats, again, the authoritarian, the autocratic, the totalitarian mindset and practices. They are literally bulldozing through all the layers of protection that the framers put into the Constitution to protect you and me from people like this. And the media are all in 100%. They're all the same, like Psaki now on MSNBC. Who cares what comes out of her big mouth? But here's Schumer. Cut 17, go.
Well, first, let's start off. The Supreme Court is a morass. First, it's an ethical morass. The idea that wealthy individuals, many of them right-wing, can both pay for cases before the court and at the same time...
All right, I want you to stop. Nobody's paying... You know, this is so bad. It's so sick. The most unethical member of the court is Sotomayor. Her name never comes up. When the press asks questions, they just want to go after Thomas. They want to go after Alito, and now they even want to go after Roberts because he isn't doing anything about these people. So we, among the most corrupt people on the face of the earth, we want an ethics law here, don't you know? So, you know, they can't trade with the Chinese and Ukrainian oligarchs and the wife of the former mayor of Moscow and line the pot. Wait a minute, that's Biden. We need term limits on Supreme Court justices, but not on us, we in Congress. I don't necessarily oppose that. I've written about that. But the way I've explained the need for term limits is much more of a comprehensive proposal than just term limits. No, not just term limits. I discussed that the other day, and I'll probably discuss it in the next day or two again. But there's too much today on a Monday as these things back up over the weekend. But go ahead.
shifts or trips is outrageous. And frankly, Chief Justice Roberts isn't doing enough to curb it. But it's a morass in even a worse way. This is a MAGA right-wing court. It's
MAGA right-wing court. Let's dehumanize some more. What's a MAGA right-wing court? So the court has ruled against Jack Smith on a number of occasions. They haven't ruled, that is, for Trump. They've ruled against some of the excesses of the prosecutor. And so that makes it a MAGA court. MAGA. If you uphold the Constitution. So this makes Chuck Schumer a propagandist, a liar, a demagogue. That's what he is. He's a slimeball. He's the worst of the worst. I've been on radio on WABC for 23 years, mister. Is that right, or 24? 23 years. And the bastard won't come on my show. Because he's a coward. Donald Trump won't debate. Hey, pal, why don't you come on my radio show? What? What? So it's a MAGA right-wing court, and he's saying this to people because he's dehumanizing the members of the court who he disagrees with. It's a MAGA court. And this is what he does. It's a morass, ethically and substantively, because it won't agree with us. Therefore, we must destroy it. He's the Stalin of the U.S. Senate, is Chuck Schumer, whatever. He's the Stalin of the U.S. Senate. That's what he is. He's grotesque. But then there's Elizabeth Warren, the Eva Peron of the U.S. Senate. And yet, she kind of lets the cat out of the bag here earlier, Mr. Producer. I'm looking for it. Oh, yes, cut 11. She kind of lets the... Oh, we can't say cat now, can we? Anyway, she lets something out of the bag. I want you to listen to this. She's forecasting. She's telling you what a Kamala Harris presidency... Oh, my God. The words, they like burn my lips. What it would do. Hat tip right scoop, cut 11, go.
Remember to start with the facts, and that is that border crossings now are lower than they were in the last year of the
First of all, that is a lie. We don't even know how they're statistically making this stuff up. They're lower now. Because they're flying them in. Legally, it's illegal, but legally, they're not counting them as illegal aliens. Because they've given them apps to use so they can come in the port of entry. So they're not calling them illegal aliens. On top of that, they're comparing numbers with numbers that they have a record number of illegal aliens coming into the country. This is all they do. They lie through their false teeth. That's what they do. Go ahead.
But recognize, and I know that Kamala Harris knows this, this is a problem that ultimately has to be solved by Congress.
No, it isn't. It was a problem created by the president. He defied congressional law. Immigration law is congressional law signed by former presidents. So they keep saying Congress needs to send him another bill. He won't sign the bill that the House sent years ago. So then we have this crummy, phony, the excuse of a bill. Well, we're just bipartisan bill and they won't sign it and so forth. But he's not following the law, even now. So how many more bills do you want to pass? Democracy. Go ahead.
In order to have more resources at the border, to have more
resources at the border. Who's stopping you? Ladies and gentlemen, the resources in this bipartisan, bisexual bill, or whatever the hell it was, the resources weren't going to be applied till 2028. How come I'm the only one that tells you this? Because I read the damn thing. Not till 2028. We need more resources down there. Says, I want to tax wealth. Like a good little Trotskyite. This is how crazy the Democrat Party's become. You got Trotskyites and Maoists. You got Leninists and Stalinists. You got purebred Marxists. It's sick. Go ahead.
in cities that are supporting migrants. And I believe we need to create a pathway to citizenship. All of that is a part of what we need to do for comprehensive immigration reform. Kamala Harris will work with Congress and get that done.
Massive amnesty. She said it, and she said Kamala Harris will work with them to get it done. How many more indicators do we need? How many more breadcrumbs do we need to follow? Breadcrumbs? We're talking about massive loaves of bread at this point. How many bread? I mean, it's just nonstop, folks. Massive amnesty. You heard her. And Kamala Harris understands. I bet she does. I bet her pastor does, too. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Tammy Bruce really is one of the smartest people on TV as far as I'm concerned. Very sharp, very wise, very substantive, very nice lady. Tammy Bruce has a brand new book out, Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda. Tammy Bruce, how are you?
I am good, and it's a pleasure to be on with you. You, television and radio, in times like these, give everyone, including myself, a focus and a place to kind of rest and think and get things right. So thank you for everything you do.
Well, you're a sweetheart. Thank you. Now, let's do a little bit of your background, because you know from where you came and you know who these people are better than anybody else. Tell us a little bit about your background. And the book, folks, is great. Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda, Amazon.com, any major bookstore. And you'll see why, in addition to what you see on Fox with Tammy Bruce, why she really knows what she's talking about, Tammy, don't you?
Well, I do, and I have been committed to making sure that my time on the left, coming from the organized feminist movement and really being a cart pusher for the left, was not in vain. That the things that I learned must be known by everyone. There's a reason why I left. And I think that this book in particular, the core of it, is about the weaponizing of fear to control people, to gain more power, to gain more money. And of course, the system does it. It's an ancient technique. It's a technique we've seen, of course, most recently with COVID, but it is ancient. I mean, it's all the time. And I want people to understand that everything they're experiencing is not organic. It's not natural. It's not a new normal, as Barack Obama would say. It is not something you have to adapt to. It is a liquid fear that has been poured onto society, which really, once it moves from transitory, which is the gift of fear, so we can, make reasonable decisions about what to do with our lives, to a chronic fear, and then to mass anxiety, which completely takes out our ability to think reasonably and with logic. And that is when we give up to the government and we do as we're told. And what has happened to the world and the country, it's a dumpster fire, because this continues to be applied every day, from the economy to the assassination attempt, to still complaints that democracy will be destroyed if Trump is elected, to getting fired if you don't use the right pronouns, to watching guys get onto women's swim teams and into women's sports. Mm-hmm. The lies that make us not know or really believe that there's nothing we can trust. All of this ruins our lives, but we can overcome it. But it is at the core, Mark, of what the left does, because they've got to have you sitting down and too afraid to speak up. And I want to smash that.
And you do. Brilliantly put. Your book is fantastic. And one of the things you point out is they're getting more and more and more extreme in what they are saying. And it is. It's dangerous the way they talk now, isn't it?
Well, it's meant to be. That's the point. And I look at a few case studies in one chapter about what can happen because of the rhetoric on top of everything else. The Justice Kavanaugh situation, the hideousness of Kamala Harris in the Senate, just ripping that guy apart, leading that wolf pack attack on that decent man, led to a young man who was clearly mentally unstable, to try to assassinate him. This is not about moving the true believers to kill somebody. It's anybody who is mentally unstable becomes part of that army that you can tip them over. This Crooks guy who murdered Corey and injured two others and injured the president. Those are the people. And the problem is, even with the baseball diamond with Steve Scalise, they know it. And what was Biden doing just a little bit ago today? Talking about how the Speaker of the House was also dead on arrival, because Johnson was talking about how the whole Supreme Court stuff was dead on arrival. And he says, yeah, well, so is he. This is obscene, but it's dangerous. And it's clearly with President Trump. It's like they're over it. They're trying to, it's censorship. They're trying to memory hole it now because they know it exposes the nature of the chaos that they want, because they can't, their theories and their policies are so fragile. And what they say is so dumb that they can only survive if people are afraid to speak up. And they've done it with changing language. They've done it with pronouns. They've created insane scenarios so that you don't know which way is up. But the book looks at the history of this. And again, it's thousands of years of systems doing this to people, and how it's applied here. It's climate change, the existential threat. It's, of course, the BLM riots, the nature of urban violence, unpredictable, strange violence keeps you crazy. And, of course, not having enough money in your pocket adds another level of fear.
Mm-hmm. And as you point out in the book so brilliantly, they're breaking us down. Here we are, independent, strong-willed, free-will Americans, and they just are constantly breaking us down through propaganda, through bureaucracy, through actions, through attacks, correct?
Yes, and the problem is, because it's like a roller coaster, we're holding on, and we tend to not have time to look up because we're trying to pay our rent and raise our families. But if you look at this, the fact is that it's deliberate. Some people excuse it as that they mean well and that it's just a few people. It's not. This is a deliberate strategy that is old as time, that the left has always used. It's like a cancer. The cancer doesn't care about the survival of the body. It is this serious, and clearly, as we've already seen, it is only going to get worse, but it relies on the average person being a bit unaware of it. And it makes you more vulnerable to it. But the last chapter is about breaking the spell. And it is a spell. And I give people methods in which to get out of it. Because I know what we were worried about on the left was, first, we laughed at the fact that Republicans would do nothing to stop us. And this is a good 30, 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. But it was also that we knew that they didn't understand that it was their decency that we thought would be their biggest Achilles heel. Because if somebody calls you a racist, you think, it's like, oh my gosh, they must be serious. But when that comes up, I tell people to behave with any names as though you've just been called a Cocker Spaniel. You don't suddenly look for the tail on your butt, because you know you're not. And it's courage that defeats all of this. It's courage we already have. And part of it is hearing people like you, seeing the example of President Trump, the example of his rally goers at Butler, that everybody had courage. And that is what we need to have. It is inherent in us as Americans. And it's just about having people show us and then realizing that all of us can do it. And we're going to have to, because the country's at stake, obviously.
Yeah. Tammy, I'd like to keep you up with a break. The book is Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda. You can get it on Amazon.com. I strongly encourage you to do this, to grab a copy of this, particularly now. It's the perfect book for now. You said something I want to pursue with you, Tammy Bruce. It's our decency that they're counting on and that they exploit. Very, very, very important point. We'll be right back.
Within, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with Tammy Bruce, folks. I want you to grab a copy of her great book. It is very, very crucial right now. Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda. Get it at Amazon.com, any major bookstore. Fear Itself. And we have it linked on all of our social sites, so please check it out. Easy to grab and very important. And when you're done reading it, share it with somebody else. Tammy Bruce, I want to get into this decency issue, and then I want to get into Kamala Harris. I mean, you spent a lot of your life in California. You know who she is better than most, both from from a left perspective and from actually living under her rule for a period of time. So this issue of decency, explain how that's exploited.
Well, there's an expectation, and it's important that we have manners and decorum. These are things missing now in society. Of course, order is important, and values and kindness. All of those things are what makes life worth living. But the nature of that also sometimes makes you not, and this is the exploitation, is saying that everything is offensive, saying that if you don't use my pronouns, you must be a bigot, that all the things Americans aren't, because that's a lie. But when you hear it, you don't imagine why people would lie about that. So you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and so you back up. The fact of the matter is, and Henry David Thoreau wrote this quite some time ago. He wrote, "I was not born to be forced. I will breathe after my own fashion. Let us see who is stronger." The most decent thing, I contend, that all of us, the decent among us, can do is save this country. The most decent thing is to save the future. The most decent thing is to make sure your children, you sit down with your kids to watch the Olympics opening ceremony, and you don't have to see something hideous that then you have to discuss with your children, which maybe you didn't want to or you would do later or whatever. It is an invasion into our own homes, into our minds in particular, and even, as we know, to take our own children from us through the school systems, that state agents are somehow better off knowing how to handle your children. It is a brazen, remarkable, aggressive step to take. But Americans, very often, especially the Democrats are the first victims of this, are thinking, well, maybe that's true. Maybe I don't know what's best. The fact is you do. These are bad people. Anybody who thinks that they know better for a stranger's child has something up their sleeve. They do not mean well. And I think that for all those of us who've come from the left, those of us who've been within that system, we watched this being developed. I wrote about it 25 years ago, that children, they were starting to look at children. So this is the nature of it, and it's true in some ways. They rely on our decency to get away with what they're doing and for their plan to work, because you question yourselves. And the issue is, none of these people mean well. And we see where they're headed. The condition of our lives proves that at this point.
Mm-hmm. And then Kamala Harris, isn't she sort of the accumulation of all these problems?
She is. Perfect example of the nature of what happened. Look, it's the West Coast, even the Western United States, where there's supposed to be radical individualism. People are there because they don't want to be, dealing with authority and all of that. And that, too, then is exploited in that, in order to remain, it's like, in order to remain free, we've got to take more control. The irony of that, like we're doing now, in order to save democracy, we have to destroy it. And people buy that garbage because of the mass anxiety involved with the issues we face every day that they have created. Through media moves it, of course. The film and television move it. California is like a mining town of mass communication, Silicon Valley. And it is also, my goodness, about money. That all these restrictions on the hoi polloi, where you can't eat meat, you can't barbecue, you can't fly, you can't drive the cars you want to drive, and they do it all because it's the only way they can show themselves that they're better than us. It is a remarkable power grab. She is the epitome of the problem with the Democrats, but with the left, for her to be effectively encouraging Hamas with the "I see you, I hear you," and the problem, the issues in Gaza. And just after that is when they massacre 12 children. Where has she been? All of these written statements are written by staff. She has never uttered a condemnation of that terrorist group. And it's all in the open. And it's not a mistake. They don't mean well. They mean what they're doing. And I want my book, if I can do anything to get redemption for the time that I was on the left, to encourage people first to know this, to see it for what it is, because you can't defeat what you don't see. And for the very personal techniques I suggest that get us out of this frame of mind. And it's a remarkable experience because I've gone through it myself.
You don't need redemption. You've been fighting the good fight for decades now, and very, very solid. And we all love to see you on Fox and hear from you and so forth. Folks, this is a fantastic book. Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda. Somebody who knows them well, and not just because many decades ago she participated in this and got a taste of it, but because today she's a smart lady, she's substantive, and she's one of the better people out there to present our perspective. Then I guess my last question, Tammy Bruce, is this. Mm-hmm. You are very supportive of President Trump. Tell us why.
Very much. Because he is a radical individual. He's honest. Sometimes it gets him in trouble. But we know who we're dealing with. He loves this country. He loves us. I think he fell in love with us during the first campaign in 15 and 16. Mm-hmm. But I saw it happen. And he is successful. He doesn't just talk about doing things. He then does them. It was going to take 30 years to get rid of ISIS because, they like that kind of chaos and fear running the world. He did it in 18 months. He doesn't take no for an answer. And even as we were talking about decency, J.D. Vance under fire right now because he's a decent guy. He's a decent, honest guy. And these are people we want as leaders because, my God, the house is on fire. And they are the only ones who can put that fire out and rebuild that house. And it's our generation that is responsible for what happens coming up. We got, what do we have, 99, 98 days?
Yeah, that's
it. This is God's assignment. This is our job now. And we can do it. And thank God he stayed. Thank God Trump had the backbone to not back down because anybody else would have. No one else could have withstood what the left did to him. And it made them hate him more. And their hate is going to consume them. It exposed who and what they are to us. And we now have to make sure that they know that we are the ones who are stronger. And we're the ones who will prevail.
The book is Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda. You can jump right now to Amazon.com, or if you're on any of my social sites now or soon, you can jump there as well. I think you're going to really benefit from this book. Tammy Bruce, God bless you, my friend. Keep it up, and thank you, and good luck with this outstanding book.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Take
care of yourself. Folks, good book, really. Fear Itself. Just Google it, Amazon.com, or just come to any of my social sites. It's right there. So the New York Times over there, our friends at Breitbart, they point out they're worried that there are a trove of Kamala Harris videos touting progressive policy imperils the campaign. Here's the deal. We Americans, we have our way. We're like water. We find the cracks or the crevices when it comes to freedom, when it comes to communicating with each other. We don't need broadcast companies. We don't need media companies. We don't need, to be specific, newspapers, radio stations, TV stations to tell us what to know. We can go find stuff out ourselves. And the problem the Pravda, Al Jazeera media have in this country is that they can't cover up all these videos. And they're everywhere. And they expose Kamala Harris's crazy-ass ideology and her general imbecility. And the New York Times is worried about it. What the media are hoping is that you'll never find them. Or if you do, and you call them out, or call her out, then you're a racist or you're a misogynist. But folks, we've been through this many, many times now. Let it bounce off. You know, what was the old kid that we're rubber, they're glue, everything bounces off me and sticks to you? Yeah, you know what? That actually works. I don't know if that's a proverb or just a little kid saying, it doesn't matter. They will do what they always do. They're liars. They're frauds. They're stupid. They're mostly left-wing Democrats. So I repeat myself. But you get the point. So trove of Harris videos makes it hard for the Pravda media to conceal their candidates' ideology and stupidity. And they're worried about that. So just keep at it. We do have Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X. We have other social media. You have Truth Social. You have Rumble, many others. You've got some great sites, you know, aggregators. You've got these lousy aggregator sites, but you have some very good ones, too. Breitbart, Blaze, Right Scoop, Daily Caller, Daily Signal, and many, many others. And I regret not remembering every single one of them at this moment. But you can check those out. And you need to use the videos and share them. You need to use the audios and share them. Or any articles you come across that actually are legit. Remember what I always say. You're the Paul Reveres. You're the Thomas Paines. You can make a difference just with a handful of people. Say, hey, did you see this video? And pull out your iPhone. Pull out whatever cell phone you show them. Or send it to them now. Link. Bookmark them. You hear what she's saying? About radical terrorism, Islam? Not to use the word? I mean, she is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Remember this, 1976, the bicentennial, Philadelphia Freedom. It's a great song. By the way, who's in first place on Major League Baseball? I'm trying to keep track of this. Are the Phillies still number one, Mr. Producer? Or you don't track it? You're a Mets guy, so all right, yeah. You gave up already. Can't say I blame you. But I'll tell you what. We all went to an Orioles game about 3 weeks ago. That is a great team. And we went to a Nationals game, I think last weekend before this one. I have to say, that Orioles stadium and the access to that stadium and the easy get around in that stadium. Now, I don't go to all the stadiums. Obviously, I've been in Philly, too, but that is my favorite stadium. Camden Yards is the best stadium. I'm just saying it is. You know, I'm very objective about these things. And it's easy to park. It's easy to get in and out of there. It just is. They did a fantastic job with it, and it's enjoyable. Fans are nice, too. You have to keep in mind, I'm a Philly fan, right, Mr. Producer? So even as a kid, you knew to wear a hat and a duck from time to time. A lot of things were thrown. Look, it's a tough crowd, but Philly's very enthusiastic about their teams. I am, too. I'm very enthusiastic. Look, I've been in New York how many years now? It's almost a quarter century. They do have the best record right now? Oh, in the National League. Not in all of baseball? Yeah. All of baseball. Okay. One last question. In the Yankees-Orioles division, who's leading? The Yankees or the Orioles? Because they're going back and forth. Orioles, but slightly? Yeah. Where's Stephen A. Smith when I need him? He listens to the show. Where the hell are you, Stephen? Maybe he's not listening right now, but I need my sports guy because, you know, I love to watch these things. But I can't track the whole thing. He's like the Rain Man. I could say, okay, how did so-and-so do in 1967 in the fifth game of the World Series? Well, Mark, blah, 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 blah. Oh, my God. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, our brothers and sisters in Israel. We know what you're about to do. We're with you 100%.
And I'll see you folks tomorrow.